Alabama, probably a little less drama there. They had their A-Day. It was not even a game. It was like a practice. 72,358 showed up. We love you guys, but okay. We're going to get to even a crazier crowd later out of Lexington, but probably not a battle. Jalen Milroe, but 3 for 9, 100 yards in this game or whatever this was. And like I said, nothing more important than practice, spring game / practice stats. Ty Simpson, 7 of 12. Dylan Lonergan, 8 for 12. And then Austin Mack, 6 for 9. So they got some depth too. And who knows what this game was about? What did we hear about Alabama? What'd you hear? It's basically Kalen DeBoer's oh my moment. Ross?
Yeah, that was, I think, the focus of, just from what I've seen of the coverage and such, the focus of Alabama spring game was not really on the players, right? It was on the new coach and the old coach, right? Nick Saban was in his typical suit. I saw on the field. He did some TV interviews and then went up, and I think he watched the game in a suite. There was some video, I think, shot by the AL.com guys of Nick Saban kind of sitting crossed arm, watching the team come out of the tunnel from his suite, from his high perch in Bryant-Denny Stadium. It was an interesting moment, and it kind of hits you, right, that it was kind of the first real moment you felt like, even though it was just a spring game, that, hey, Nick Saban is no longer leading the Tide down in the field. Kalen DeBoer led the team out of the tunnel. So it was kind of more, the game was kind of felt more about that situation than anything else. But certainly Alabama has a quarterback situation. While they have a returning starter, I think there's no doubt that they have a competition there that probably will extend into fall camp.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jalen Milroe did a lot of great things last year, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily infallible. And totally new regime, new system, new everything. You're going to want to take a look at everybody you've got, because they do have plenty of talent, obviously, they're quarterback. So I would keep that one open as well. And, I mean, you want to respect Milroe as the returning starter who got you into the playoff, but at the same time, keep all options open. This may be just me, but I would be a little concerned if I were Kalen DeBoer that Nick is sitting up in the suite for the spring game. And I can understand him wanting to come back, watch the regular season and stuff like that. But if he's even going to sit up there, with the flip card and watch the spring game, I might feel like he's a little looking over my shoulder. This would be time I would be like, can't you go to the lake? It's April, starting to get warm out there. Go do a little bass fishing, whatever, I'm not sure I'd want Nick Saban at the spring game.
I think he was on the lake. I think he spent some time on the lake with Miss Terry earlier this week. There were some photos that were going around. And then, he was here too. He was in Augusta for at least a day. I think he was on the Golf Channel. But, we talked about that story of mine earlier this week on Kalen DeBoer, my visit to Tuscaloosa. And, one of the biggest things I came away with, and I think I said this earlier this week, is that Nick Saban is kind of, I don't know, I say removing himself, but I don't think he's in the facility, at least very much. And I don't believe he actually attended a spring practice before the spring game, but he had plans to attend the spring game. But yeah, I mean, I understand what Pat's saying, right? You look up there and you got, arguably the greatest coach in college football history looking down upon you. And you're the guy who's replacing him. It's going to be an interesting balance this coming season to watch where Nick Saban is, like during games, right? Practices, press conferences, like what his role is. It's going to be interesting.
I doubt it. He's going to be nowhere. He's doing game day, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
I mean, unless Alabama's at game day at Alabama, does he make it? I mean, is he jetting back to make the game? I look at it this two ways. It's very interesting. This is basketball, but Roy Williams retires from North Carolina, and he's at every game, right behind the bench, sitting in the stands, prominent, cheering, standing in the aisle. Like, he is there. Mike Krzyzewski retires at Duke, and he doesn't want to show up at anything, right? Because he doesn't want to overshadow. So they have two coaches come in, and they have two totally different philosophies. I don't know which one's right or which one's wrong, right? I mean, I don't know that it matters. I don't know if John Shire is coaching better because Kay isn't there. I don't know. Or would he be better if it's hard to say. I think you should just make your choice and all that. I don't know why you'd go to a spring game, but Saban wanted to. He did. Whatever.
Remember TV?
I mean,
he did TV interviews.
I want to
say that contributed.
Yeah.
What were those? Was he promoting that he exists in Alabama? Local news, like, I think
he's got to show his support for the new coach and the team.
Oh, okay,
Dan.
all right.
Come on,
keep the recruits coming. All right, that's fine.
Keep the recruits coming.
I mean, would it be worse if he didn't go?
Always be recruiting.
Would you be able to say, see, he doesn't support Kalen DeBoer? He's not at the spring game. If media vultures like us would totally run with that.
See, I don't know. I would say this. It would perfectly actually fit that Saban loves spring practice because he loves all the stuff about football, right? Whereas the players all hate spring practice, and the media doesn't like spring practice. Coaches probably the only ones, but him especially, like the nitty gritty elements of how we're going to build this team. How's our third and short yardage drills going on Thursday in March? I gotta know. So I can see that there, where he just literally wants to watch it and be around it and see it. But Dan, your point there, it's interesting because those are two totally different approaches with promotions from within North Carolina and Duke. Like, my sense was that Roy was always around because Roy wanted to cheerlead for Hubert. He was his hand-picked successor, Hubert Davis. And Roy also loves going to sporting events. He's at all the North Carolina football games. He's at the baseball games. He goes to tennis. I've seen him at 2 swim meets at North Carolina. And Kay, I don't know. It might just have been a little bit different dynamic there where, that he felt like Shire needed the space or whatever. Whereas Roy, I think, is really just, he wants to go cheer for Carolina for everything.
Kay stayed away because there's some leadership class at West Point where that's what generals, right? Generals don't criticize generals. There's no doubt. His way is probably tried and true. But Roy, he just got big old heart now. He just loves Carolina.
He might be controlling as well, but I give Roy the benefit of the doubt there.
Pat, you bring up a good point. It probably was almost hard for Nick Saban to stay away from the Alabama facility during spring practice, because I think he said publicly before that he likes practice more than the games. I think he said that publicly, and the preparation in of the week of a game, even spring practice, and preparation of summer workouts and fall camp is something he enjoys. So, but he stayed away, I think, for the most part. But it's going to be interesting to watch. And Dan, you're right. I mean, he's going to be on game day, but I mean, especially with this new SEC TV deal, Alabama's probably going to be playing a lot of night games. They'll have that prime time spot on ABC. He can take that jet, Dan, and get back in a real quickly.
Right.
It's funny because these coaches have always been like this. They'll take us, they'll get fired and have a year off or something, they're coming back and they'll spend the year flying around watching practices and stuff. You see them at practice, basketball, football practices, and they like to go to practice. Like, if I got a year off from this job, I ain't sitting around watching someone else podcast. I can tell you that.
You wouldn't be fascinated by the intricacies of the, transition, stuff like that. You actually, I have to give you credit, Dan, tonight. For all our complete lack of preparation, the segue to drinking the Kool-Aid from us drinking our various beverages, one of your better moments.
Yeah. I also had spring game stats.
The low bar.
Let's just and I covered
it.
Golf all week.
Oh, you poor thing.
Actually, the other podcasters should come watch me work. and learn. But I'm not giving away the secrets. Chick-fil-A doesn't tell you what's in that sauce. Heck no. Ross, you pointed this out, and I tried to set you up with this earlier, but you didn't take the bait because you probably forgot. But there was a great comedy last year when a picture of the Washington Husky spring game that Kalen Moore coached in, the crowd was 105 people, maybe.
Really?
98 people. What is it? 97,000, they said at Alabama. It might have been 97 people. It was bad.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
It was bad. And this was the national runner-ups with a top 10 wide receiver pick and you could watch Penix and Adunze play.
Yeah.
Nobody went. So that was spring game in Seattle. Spring game in Tuscaloosa. Little bit different. Ross, you have thoughts now? See?
Yeah, a wee bit different there, isn't it? You know, we talk a lot on the show about NIL and like how much money a program has, right? But there's another part of recruiting. There's certainly many other parts of recruiting than just the money, and that is the passion for wherever you are. And I know we're going to talk about Kentucky basketball later, and that's another great example. There's just some places where it just means more.